Welcome back to the Acute Developer. So there's been a few questions about the Alpha Advantage API and how to actually make a chart with that API. So I figured, why don't we take a look at it, see if we can kind of figure this out together. So here is the Alpha Advantage API. Now I have no experience with this, so I really don't have a clue. But I think we'll take a look here at this documentation. And I'll put a link to this in the video so that everybody can kind of follow along. Now, if I go to the main section, if you will, it's going to kind of review here the different stock series. Now, in these stock charts, there are different types of data that come in. Now, the data, typically, it'll come in like a tick. So it'll be, and what that means is one price point. So for each move that it makes, so if it's 1 and it goes to 2 and then it goes to 3 and then it goes back to 2, each one of those will come in as a separate piece of data. The other component, which many of these actually do, because the tick data is expensive, the free data comes in what they call the intraday, and you can usually choose between 1 minute bar, 3 minute bar, 5 minute bar, and so forth. And typically what happens there is that it'll actually give, like it says here, the open, high, low, close. That's what OHLC is. And then the V is for volume. Now the free data, really want to kind of just jump to daily. Daily is probably the best way to go right now, because we'll be able to get it for free. And then we kind of play around with it. So first, just look at the actual data itself and figure out how we can play with that data. And then we'll figure out a plan of how to read the data within our application. So I don't know what this is. So this is adjusted. Well, what does this say? Okay. It's the raw trading data for the daily open, the high, low, close, and the volume. And then the values are adjusted for the real close. But you know what? Let's just stick with daily. We're going to make it just as basic as possible. And then if we scroll down, it's going to give us an example. And it looks like all of these examples are in JSON format. Now, this stuff, it can be really confusing. At least I find it to be confusing first. So when we look here, it's going to give the a sample ticker, but it's that ticker, and what that means is the ticker is a company. So the QQQ, which is the NASDAQ 100, or Apple, or IBM, I like to call it I took a BM. So in that instance, right, whatever it may be. So here, it is IBM. There we go. I didn't even know. I just noticed that. So this link right here, see where it says IBM? So if I click on it, here it is. I took a BM. So we can take this data here. I'll save it to a JSON text file. And I'll use this. This is kind of what I'll play around with. So this looks like it's the format. There's a lot here, enough to cause a problem and crash our application. So we'll take a look at this and kind of go from there. And this is probably going to be a few videos. The first video is looking at the documentation and determining whether or not we'll really just, can we, what do we do? How do we use it? How do we move forward, etc. So these other samples, so this would be a Canada stock. This would be a Germany stock, an India stock, China. But since we're based in the US, these other ones, they can be tricky. And just as an example, typically the data for each one of these exchanges, you have to pay. It's not always, but that's a rare occasion. Intraday data, you're probably going to have to pay. So now that we have this, I'll go ahead and save it to a text file. And then from here, we'll jump into Qt and figure out our plan. Like, what are we going to do? So I'll go ahead and save this, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so now let's take a look at the JSON data that I copied. So here we go. Here's the JSON data. And make that a little wider. There we go. So here we go. So here's the metadata in the JSON format. And it looks like it gives us a list, gives us the date for the open, the high, the low, close, and the volume. And it looks like we're gonna have to actually parse this because it's based on numeric values, which is fine. Now again, I don't want to change this data because this appears as though it's the data that comes from their API. So I kind of have to make do. So the first step is going to be parsing the JSON data. Well, actually, no, that's not true. The first step is going to be read the text file. Right? So let's go back to our code right here, our little console app. And so we're going to do this in pieces. So the first step, we have to read the file. So I like to just kind of make notes of what I'm going to do because then I'll forget. So read the text file. Then the next thing we need to do is parse the JSON data. All right. And then 3, before we get to 3, how are we going to parse that JSON data? What are we going to do? So here's our colon. So we could take the first group, and then we could take the second group. And the question is, do we want to just take this and store it in a container? Or do we want to deal with the text as it comes in and then store it in the container? Because here's the interesting part. If we actually just take this and store it into the container, every time we have to read that container, we're going to have to parse this data. Right? We're going to have to adjust it. So I think I would prefer to do the first part, which is parse it first, only use what I need. So all I need is the word open. All I need is high, all I need is low, all I need is close, and all I need is volume. So those are the two things that I'll need. As far as the information, the symbol, last refreshed, output size, time zone, I don't think I really need that. Yeah, I don't think I even need this, to be honest. So this first group right here, I need nothing. So I really only have to start reading from this point. From the time series daily, so really this group, that's all. So I can skip this first root level, and then see, skip that, and then only read this. All the stuff within time series daily. That's good. So more notes. So parse the JSON data. So this here is actually going to be 3. That's the third step. The second step is going to be filter. Press the caps lock. The first step is going to be filtering the keywords. So that's our step right there. Those are our steps. Step 1, read it. Step 2, take the time series daily. And step 3, parse it and filter what we need, which is going to be this. So our JSON format is going to basically be Whoops. We'll make a little note here. This will represent what we're going to do here. And so let's make example. All right, so let's make an example of what it will look like. So this is what it's going to look like right here. That's what we will see. The open, the high, the low, the close, and the volume. And here's our date. And then we can parse the date and take care of business. All right, so I think that's pretty good. So this is our plan. And then we'll do this in the first step. So stay tuned.